gonna be the Hey everybody, welcome to Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zalakis. I of course am your host, Jason Zalakis. We are live in Los Angeles this morning. It's 11 o'clock on Thursdays, you know, the same time we always do the show, 11 o'clock on Thursdays, and that's how we do it, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, because, you know, like I said, we're here live in Los Angeles. And welcome to Coffee Breaks Thursdays. Jason Zalakis. Let's get started. Let's start with the typical Ouija mug this week. All right. You know, this week we're starting off like normal. You know, let's talk about how it goes. You know, my week as an actor is what it is. You know, I studied for this. I studied for this role, and I you know, really thought, man, I really have this, and you know, I really got it. And the audition turns out to be this this Zoom audition, and the Zoom audition is. Well, of course, it's a Zoom audition. I mean, I shouldn't say, of course, it's a Zoom audition. Let me back up a minute. The audition is because now a lot of times now we're doing live auditions, and I've seen a lot of people lately doing live auditions. But for me, this audition that I had this week was a Zoom audition, and it was over what they call CCast, and CCast is what actors use on Actors Access, and so I see our guest waiting to come on, and hopefully we'll be able to have no problem bringing her on today. We haven't done a test, and so who knows if we're going to be able to bring our guest Melody Parra on today, but we hope we are going to be able to. We'll figure that out. It hasn't given me the option yet, but we're going to see. We're going to hang in there and just see what happens. So moving on, what I said was, you know, so I had this Zoom audition, and it was CCast audition, and you know, they bring it up, and they, you know, it's this audition for this sitcom where I'm an abusive husband, and I couldn't figure out how a sitcom was about an abusive husband, but I don't know how that's funny. But anyway, I auditioned for the part, and the interesting thing about it was, though, is that the director didn't want to show his face on the screen. He left it a black image, so I had to audition to just a black screen, like you would anything else. But you know, it was a live audition, but it was to a black screen. So imagine they have you live audition to a room where no one is there. That was essentially what I did, and it was weird. And you know, I didn't get the role, and which sucks because like I really thought that this sitcom where I'm an abusive husband would have been pretty cool, and so I kind of wanted the role, you know. So I mean, you know, I mean, I just want to work. Really, I think that's like any actor. I just want to work, and you know, that would have been cool, but I didn't get the part. And you know, the thing is, I started to wonder about that. I had to memorize this like gigantic monologue for, okay, it's finally giving me the option to bring our guest on. That's going to be great. We're going to have no problems today. So in about 12 minutes after we get through all this junk, it's not junk, it's really good TV. We're going to bring on Melody Parra. I'm really excited about that. So hang in there. She's done a lot of cool stuff, a lot of great stuff, I'm sure, coming up. You know how we do it on the show. It's always great stuff. And if you don't watch to the end, you miss a lot of the really good stuff at the end. You know, we usually, a lot of times we get, you know, like I'm a little slow going, but we get to the really good stuff at the end. It's kind of like how I deliver any acting thing. They're like, you're really great at the end, but you know, in the beginning it took you a little bit to get warmed up. So that happens to me on occasion. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. I didn't land the job. Now, here's the interesting thing about it, right? Is I auditioned to a black screen. That job only paid $125 a day. Like it was listed on a major Actors Access, like major actors site. It's a huge audition, and it only pays $125 a day. Like, and I'm like, I mean, realistically, $125 a day is like $10 an hour, which is realistic for what a lot of actors get. And I like to, you know, I don't think people know that. I don't think if you know that watching the show, you know that we get offered parts as low as like 125 bucks a day, which is like the minimum. And I was bummed I didn't get that job. Like that's crazy to me about being like, because I can understand, man, I didn't get a job paying, you know, a couple $100,000 or something like that, right? You know, like, oh man, you know, I did all this work and didn't get that. But I'm bummed I didn't get a job for 125 bucks. Like that's insane. I always tell you guys, being an actor is an insane choice. Like I think it's the craziest job in the whole world. Like why would anybody do it? But I'm dying to do it. And you know, so the deal is though, is that I got a lot of other stuff going on too, right? Like, so this week it was a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. I can announce that my movie that I'm in, The First Rule, and it's won tons of awards. We've won almost every festival we've been in, and we are headed to the San Francisco Timeless Festival on July 16th. So if you want to see my film, The First Rule, and I say my film, I'm in it. It's directed by Saurav Mahapatra. I think does everybody say that? That my film, like if they're a star in the movie or if they're in the movie, I wonder how actors talk about that. That's never something I've asked, like my movie or the movie. The movie, I guess is probably better. I'm not really sure. Anyway, you know what else is going on this week? Shout out to my daughter who is graduating high school. And yeah, so I know a lot of you think, what? But I'm older than you think. My kid is graduating high school and she just bought her first car. And so things are going, so that's why I have a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on this week. Graduations and parties. And my son, who's a freshman, is becoming, he's his last day of school. He's out at school right now. So shout out to all the kids graduating. We'll have a little sip of coffee here for you. And handsome history this week. I decided, like I tell you, sometimes I'm inspired. And this week, we're gonna get to our guests a lot sooner than I expected. The truth is I just don't have a lot to talk about this week. As far as that was one thing I did want to mention is I wondered as an actor. I memorized this giant monologue for a role I didn't get. I wonder as an actor, how much have I memorized that I never that I've never used, right? Like I've memorized so many parts for auditions, because you don't read when you go into an audition, you don't typically read, it. I mean, I feel that's what I do. I memorize. And so I wondered about that. How much stuff have I really memorized over the years? And I haven't even been doing that long. But I've memorized so many things that don't come to fruition. And I love it when a director will go, "Did you read the script?" And you're like, "Dude, I'm too busy memorizing like 10 other things to read your script. If I'm potentially not in that film." But it's a joke anyway. Moving right along. Handsome history this week. Let's get to it. As I was saying, my kid is graduating high school, so she inspired me this week to bring up some handsome history. One of the things that is interesting is the hat. Okay, so the hat from graduation is called a mortarboard. And the reason it's called a mortarboard, obviously, is it mimics the mortar, or the board that they would use to do, it doesn't mimic it, but it resembles it. A board that they would mix mortar on to, do mortaring things, build bricks and all that stuff. I forgot that, to do mason work, to do masonry. And, so it's called the mortarboard. But it was really popular to wear those hats in the 14th and 15th century because it showed superiority and intelligence. So basically, the snobby people of the time would wear those mortarboard hats. And that's where that tradition sort of comes from it actually comes from the church. The church had a very similar hat that the mortarboard hat became, or their hat became the mortarboard hat. And so the hat is actually pretty interesting, but it was used to show superiority. So I would imagine if you're walking around on the street today and you saw somebody wear that, you would go, that guy is showing off, maybe. I don't know, but anyway, the ring that the students wear, the class ring, that was initiated in 1835 by West Point. The United States institution. They were the first to decide to do a ring that everybody would get, and it was in 1835. So the class ring is almost 90 years old. It's about 90 years old. So I think that's pretty cool. And the other things that I learned this week, "Pomp and Circumstance," a song that they play at graduation, that was written by Edgar. I had to write it down. Sir Edgar Elgar, because his name is Edgar Elgar. It sounds like a kid made that up. But that's his real. Sir Edgar Elgar in 1901 wrote "Pomp and Circumstance," and it was used for the King Edward VII. The "Pomp and Circumstance" song was used for him to, basically, I think it was his inauguration or some crap. Anyway, I missed that part. But the reason that "Pomp and Circumstance" is played at graduations was because that song was played for Sir Edgar when he received an honorary doctorate from Yale in 1905. So in 1905, they played that song, his own song for him in Yale at the graduation. And that song then spawned out to people playing it at a graduation from him playing it in 1905. Unbelievable. And one of the other things that I thought, and probably is the coolest thing that I think that I learned this week for us, and then we'll get right to our guest, Melody Parra, is the tossing of the hat. The tossing of the hat. Now, me, I didn't want to throw my hat because I'm like a selfish dude and was like, yo, I got to keep this shit. What if I lose it, right? Well, I'll never know which one is mine. So if I throw the hat, I'll never know. And I need this for some reason, which clearly I don't. My daughter is graduating, like I said, this year. And I kept my tassel when I graduated in 1991. Yeah, I'm hella old. And I kept it. I still have it. And I said, yo, you want to wear, your dad's tassel too? Like, it's cool, right? And she was like, no. And I was like, then why the heck did I even save this thing? Like, sometimes I wonder, right? Why did I keep this crap? Like, and now I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to throw it away. It's 30 years. But at the same time, what am I going to do with it? Right? So the last thing is the throwing of the hat. I would have kept it. I would still have it. I don't have it. My mother has it. I think my mother has it. I don't know. Anyway, the U.S. Naval Academy started the throwing of the hat. And they started the throwing the hat in 1912. Because prior to 1912, when people graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy, they would stay as midshipmen. So they would need their hats. So because they were going to continue in the same position. But in 1912, they decided the graduating class no longer were midshipmen. They would become officers. So since they were graduating from the Naval Academy, they no longer needed the midshipman hat. They would throw it as if I don't need this anymore. And that's where the throwing of the hat came from, was that they were graduating from midshipmen to officers in 1912. And my mother just chimed in. She does have both my sister's hats and gowns, my sister's and mine. But because my mother has, I don't know, again, what am I going to do with it? I can complete the whole outfit and go, do you remember when I almost didn't graduate? That was fun. I'm not that kid. I'm not that guy to get all A's. I am the C student at best. Jason, if you only applied yourself. Jason, if you only could put down the video games for 10 minutes. And that's what my wife said to me probably just a few minutes ago. That's Handsome History this week, folks. Let's get to our guest, Melody Parra, coming up. Shout out, of course, super producer Warren Madden in the other room. In the other room? What the fuck? He in the other room? He's in Florida. He's not in the other room. What if he was kidnapped and in my room and I was just telling you guys he was in Florida? Shout out to producer Warren Madden in Florida, who makes it happen all the way. My mother says she's saving the cap and gown in case she needs a Halloween costume. She can go as a kid who almost didn't graduate. That's what you can go as. Melody Parra coming up. Where did she go? Melody Parra, I can't bring you on. Asked to be invited again. It didn't give me here we go. This is the part where I talked too long and the guest goes, I don't want to be on this damn show. You guys know that's never happened. And then it just froze, which means that we get a, oh man, here we go. Facebook Live. Hi, how? Okay, so I'm not seeing you on the list. A minute ago it said, let me see if I can back this up. We're going to try bring them on camera, send request. Can't bring Melody on as a guest. I wonder why. What happened? Oh, here we go, you guys. Bring them on, send request. Can't bring her on as a guest. Melody, maybe try to leave and come back on. Here we go, you guys. This is one of those things. Try to like leave the show or whatever and then come back on and see if we can't bring you on. Because it's usually I have a list here to can't bring you on. Warren, maybe you can make that happen over there. I know you're not in the other room, but maybe perhaps you can make that happen. I can see you guys are watching. It just doesn't give me the the little button to ask to join. On my side, all I see, well, we might have something here. We have it. You guys think this. You don't want to me anymore. I barely could drag it out the 14 minutes I did this week because I didn't have a lot of work going on. And, that is some days of this week for an actor. There's this week. That's one of the nice things about being an independent contractor is that I can choose to not work this week, because I got graduations and I got buying cars and all this other things going on in my life, which are wonderful blessings. Again, shout out to producer Warren Madden. You guys want to be on the show, you got to contact Warren Madden. I know a lot of you send me messages, but the messages got to go to him because he's the man who makes it happen. I don't know who's on this week until like he tells me. So you guys, let's we're trying to get fumbling my words. We're trying to get Melody Parra to join us here. Let's give her let me see before she comes on, and it says adding, but it may not be adding. Now it says approve, send invite. Okay, let's try this again. Holy moly. Every time we try some Facebook stuff, sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. You guys know, week after week. If you want to see the episodes, watch the feed. We got her. Hi, Melody.
What a process.
It is a process. You know, it's sometimes, how did you get on this time? Did you come off and come back on?
I logged off, I came back on, and then when I tried to join again, it asked me to access the camera or to allow access to camera and mic. So then I have to go into the settings and do that. So I'm here.
Okay, I never heard that. You know, I've only ever been on my show. I've never been on that side. Like I've only ever been on
that makes sense.
side.
So yeah, but it wasn't too bad. It was pretty straightforward once I kind of like just left the settings. I think because I didn't have the Facebook app downloaded, so when I downloaded it, I guess like it needed permission, you know, for the camera and audio. So
right,
but I'm here.
you know, and thank you for going through the hoops. We've tried this show. We tried the show on other platforms, and the other platforms had problems like saving the show. So as unreliable as Facebook is, it's been our most reliable platform. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, with Warren's lack of technology, we kind of do it here. NITs, Warren, you know. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being on.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So I met you in person at the Spread event for that movie. But I did some research. Let's go back before we start with that.
Okay.
You're born in LA.
I am. Yes.
I don't get a lot of guests that are from here.
I am from LA, born and raised, Silver Lake area. I'm sure you've heard of Silver Lake.
No, I've only been here a year. So in fact, it's like a year next week or something. Yeah, I haven't I've been here like 51 weeks.
Okay.
Like a baby.
Well, congratulations. You know, that's a good hallmark you're reaching there. Silver Lake is right next to Los Feliz, so it's Los Feliz.
Yes, I know where that is.
Okay, yeah. So it's like.
Now, what did you call it? Because I call it Los Feliz, like a stupid white guy. What did you call it?
I call it Los Feliz.
Los Feliz.
Yeah. But
okay.
Some people say Los Feliz, but I say Los Feliz. I think Los Feliz is kind of like trying to make it sound Spanish, like, because that is like, but with an American pronunciation. Because it is in Spanish. In Spanish, it means the happy, like the happy ones. Like, that's
the happy ones. Okay.
Yeah. So I could see how that would catch on. Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, every city in California is named in Spanish. Almost every single city is a Spanish name in California. They're all named for Santa somebody or Son somebody. You know, I'm from San Jose. I'm from the other end of California. I'm from the north. Oh, we lost you for a second. Typical Facebook. Okay, you're back. Anyway. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I love this part of the show where it freezes and comes in and out. That's also another favorite of mine. But anyway, so I'm from Northern California. So you're from here. What do you know? What do you hear about the North? Because we knew a lot about Southern California. You know, like what's your
like my
take on it?
Of that?
Yeah.
The only perception I really have of that is that you guys are a lot better at handling the cold. So I don't have too much like stereotypes around it, but yeah, because I mean I know it's funny because in the entertainment industry a lot of people I'm echoing, I don't know why, so it's kind of weird. It's like it's lagging. Hang on one second.
Yeah, it does that. It's a Facebook issue.
Okay, so a lot of people from the entertainment industry, you know, I know are not from Los Angeles. They all kind of come here. But my reality growing up here, I mean, I've traveled quite a bit, but has always been with LA natives, LA locals. So that's like my circle. So when you're like, what's your perception of North? I'm like, it's funny because I don't know I don't have too many stereotypes around it, I guess, kind of the way LA people do. But it's funny when I get stereotypes, like, no, you're from here, you're a unicorn. I'm like, yeah, I'm from here. Like, that's where I'm from, you know? But
So I hear you were getting an audio issue, but I think it's still okay. We'll let the audience tell us if it's a problem, but you can still hear me, right?
I can hear you. I just feel like it's lagging. Like I hear you saying right now, I hear you're having audio issues, but it's still okay. And then I hear myself speaking like it's lagging from earlier.
Let's see. Do me a favor. I hate to do this, but let's see what happens if you go off and come back on. Can we try that?
Let me try it.
Okay. All right, folks, we're gonna do a little segment here, see if we can get this fixed for you. We're sorry about the audio, but as you can tell, we're really getting into the good part of the show where we talk about stereotypes of Los Angeles. Let's see if we can make this happen. I'm still getting a half a. Let's see what happens there. We're gonna try that, and we're gonna see if we can bring her back on. I really hope we can. Obviously, let's really hope. You guys know how we do. But one of the things that, and I'm sweating in Los Angeles here. One of the things that I get a lot, right? I love to talk about where people are from versus how they feel about Los Angeles. And, because when I was like I tell you, when I'm in NorCal, I'm thinking to myself, dude, Los Angeles is terrible. I don't want to live there. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't want to live there. And let's see if we got Melody coming back on. So we're going to see. And now I live here, and now I won't live anywhere else. Like, now I know, right? Like, LA is the place to be, especially if you're an actor or you want to be an actor or you want to do stuff like I do. So Melody, thanks for coming back. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's perfect.
It's perfect.
No
Okay.
lying.
We'll wait till the next Facebook screw up. Anyway, so you didn't hear a lot about like us. So, because I came to LA and I'm going, we have huge differences. And it's more than just the cold. Because, yeah, you're right. San Francisco is never warm.
Yeah.
There's like this song, and it's Warm San Francisco Night. And I kept waiting for that to happen in like 30 years, and I never saw one. Like, San Francisco is not warm. But you come to LA, and it's, hot. And the closer you move inland, it gets hotter, like each city.
Hotter, yeah. Or like the Valley, and they have like, it's not too far off.
Right. So you decided growing up in LA, and like you said, you're a unicorn. You're like, I've never met an actor, someone in our field who's from here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Why did you decide, all that craziness? I mean, you're exposed to it. You decided you wanted to be part of that. Why?
That's a good question. I think more than like the whole idea of like the spotlight, it's just like when I've always been pretty creative. So I think, when I was a kid, just starting out like in plays at school, stories, that kind of stuff, I loved it. Like I think I'm a very imaginative person, so I just love that whole world of like being a character, being in another world, being, in a different time period. So I think my love for it started kind of like in plays, and just the idea of performing and getting to, also like I did musicals in high school. So I wasn't necessarily thinking career. I just kind of loved it. I mean, like I always was like, I want to be, I think before I even, like when you're a kid, when you're 6, 7, you're just like, I like doing this. I love doing this, so you're not really thinking so far as like, is this what I'm going to do forever? Obviously, but you just kind of, it's a calling. So it's really cool. But then when I got to high school, I started thinking about like, well, what am I going to do, with life? I like to write, I love literature. I love to read. I'm a total like book nerd. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll study literature. And that's what I did. I went to UCLA and I studied literature, but I always kept acting. I was part of like a theater group at UCLA, and we put on like a lot of Greek tragedies, the classics, Shakespeare stuff. So that's where I kind of got my start. And then I was like, okay, I think my original thought was maybe I'll be a professor, like a literature professor, and then my love of acting just kept growing. And I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, I think I'm just going to give it a shot after I graduated. I was like, okay, I'm just going to give it a shot and, start working, look for an agent, manager, and it just kind of all fell into place.
So you were going to go a literature professor, like the most boring career in the world. And then you said, you know what, I'll do the most insane career.
No. I don't think it's boring. I mean, like, I think I was really lucky. I had really passionate professors, like at UCLA. So I think that they were always, I think passion is contagious. So I think like when somebody's doing something that they love and you're dissecting stories and analyzing characters' motives, I think storytelling, as far as from like a writing perspective versus an acting or performing perspective, they're very closely tied in, you know, so it's just like looking at it from another angle. So I thought it was really exciting because, you know, you're like breaking down text all the time and then versus
Right.
performing it. So I think that really actually has helped me a lot, the way I break down the script, you know, the way I look at a character's point of view, their agency, you know, and kind of their role in the story. So I think I'm very fortunate that I've seen it both ways.
It's funny that you mentioned that passion. One of the only things I ever excelled at was history in school. And, you know, obviously I do a history show, part of the show,
You
but
can tell that you love history.
I just even realized that, man, I had a professor who was just like really adamant, and all my
Yeah.
it seemed like the history teachers were always the most passionate. Maybe that's why I do that. Right. Let's. One of the things I noticed about you in plays, and I want to go back a little bit to your stage performing. Um, you know, when I look at a lot of people who talk about they acted in high school and they list things they've been in, we're talking about things like Shrek or Grease or, you know, stuff like that. But you have like Othello and Oedipus
I
and
do.
like
Yeah.
serious stuff.
Yeah.
So I was blown away by that.
Thank you.
Like tell us about that. Like those are extremely hard to pull off.
They are. So a lot of those I did while I was in college, you know, and I think that's what kind of made me realize like how closely tied obviously writing, literature, story, and performing are. We would have like, even if it was like a lit class, they'd be like, okay, you know, we're gonna go over Oedipus Rex or Antigone, or, you know, and then when I had the Shakespeare classes, and they're like, okay, we want you to pick a scene that really spoke to you, and you're gonna perform it, you know, and we would get to put on like these excerpts of famous plays or tragedies, and yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot, but you know, when I think sometimes people, if you're not an English person or a lit person, you're not going to nerd out over it. But like when you have this dense text and like really intense, you know, the way it's broken down, like in iambic pentameter, or like the way all of the language flows, it is kind of boring, or kind of, it doesn't make sense when you sit there and you read it in your head. But as soon as you put it on its feet, it's different. Like it clicks, especially if it's well performed, because like sometimes like when you're reading it there by yourself, you're like, these are just chunks and chunks and chunks of dialogue. But when you get to hear it out loud, there's a reason it's written like that, you know? And then it makes sense. And then if you're following the structure, oh my God, I'm like nerding out on the English side, but who cares? If you're following the structure of it, I feel like it clicks with the audience because you accent the words that need to be accented. You know, you lean back on the certain, the pattern. It's all like a rhythm. So I really enjoyed it, you know, and I wasn't in the drama department, so we had to mount it like you know, on the floor in a hall, you know, like in a lecture hall. So that's how we would do it. Yeah, that's how we would do it, and we would get to kind of have our own say on how we're going to do the props, how we're going to do like the entrances and exits. So it was like, I really enjoyed it. It was just like a really cool creative process for me. I liked it.
Do you ever get, you know, because I hear a lot of actors, right? Like, and they make fun of it, but do you ever get on a set where it's like kind of a lowbrow thing and you're like, I've done Shakespeare? Like,
No, no. I mean, yeah, I've been on all kinds of sets. I'm not going to say no. I've been on super big productions, and I've been on just more like indie feels. But no, I mean, I've had actors who I hear say that, you know, or kind of like, you know, what, like thumbing their nose. But in my mind, it's like, if you signed on for the project, you know, and you like what you saw, you got to give it your all. And you never know where things end up. And, you know, we're all doing this because we love it. You have to just respect and trust the process. So, you know, but yes, I have, one of the things people always tell me is that I'm very easy to work with. And I remember at the beginning, I was like, what am I doing that is so different? I feel like it's just normal. Like you show up prepared, you do your stuff. But then
right.
the more, you know, right? It's like such common sense. But then the more productions I did see like, unfortunately in this business, some people do have a little bit of attitude and are very self-entitled. And I was like, okay, I understand now why they were like, you're easy to work. And I'm just like, I'm
I,
here doing my thing, you know?
Sometimes I'm stunned. Right. I'm stunned what I hear. I hear like, oh my God, at least you auditioned with a shirt on. And I'm like, wait, what? You get
Oh
guys who
my
audition
goodness.
without a shirt? And they go, yeah. And they go, hey, at least you had a photo. And I go, wait, you're getting people who submit with no photo? Like, like the stuff I
Yeah.
hear is unbelievable. Right.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you, somebody like us who shows up with multiple outfits, shows up with on time,
Yeah.
you
On
know,
time and prepared. And I think it also gets tricky. You know, I've been on the production side of things as well. I on one movie that I produced and directed and acted in, and then on another one where I was like, I like to sit back when I'm just acting and I'm not like on the production side, because I feel like everybody has a specific role and you don't want to step on anybody's toes unless they ask you. They're like, hey, what do you think if we do this shot? Like, okay, then yeah, you know, you pitch it. But it does surprise me on the cast side how some people I think overstep a lot, and they just are like adamant about changing things. I mean, even if it's like not being asked of you, because it's like you don't know the schedule someone's on, you don't know what shots they need, and if you start like drawing out time, you're gonna lose light and you're gonna lose time and you're gonna lose the other actors that are there waiting for their scenes. So it's kind of crazy when you think about it like that.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Like when an actor takes over that scene, like, you know, because like me, right? I don't I don't know lighting. I don't tell them what to do. I don't know the sound. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I leave that alone. But I see other guys on set go, "Hey, we got to do this right now. You know, we got to shoot right now. Like, you know, and we're done with that. I'm not doing it again." And you're like, "You're not the director, but what do you like?"
I've never had an actor. I've never, luckily, I guess, worked with an actor who's said that. Like, we got to do it now or I'm not doing it again. But I have been with actors who I think get very overwhelmed or very frustrated sometimes. And, like, they know the lines. And just, like, the takes, unfortunately, I think the nerves get the better of them sometimes. So the takes are, like, you're repeating takes not because you're going for a different version or a different emotion, a different take on things, but because you're trying to get it solid all the way through. And that is hard to watch sometimes because it's like, you know it, and sometimes they get frustrated. They need a moment to step out and just kind of like compose themselves. And
right.
that hasn't happened too often, but especially I think when it's gigantic chunks of dialogue, people get in their head. It's like, you know it, it's muscle memory. If you just say it out loud to yourself in your prep, you'll know it. Because even if you forget it in the moment, your mouth, your muscles will remember it, so you just keep going. So that's interesting. But as far as like oh, that's my dog. Oliver, sorry. Anyway, welcome to LA. But yeah, and all this video chatting live stuff. Hang on one second.
Well, and I'm sure the helicopter is going to come by at any moment.
I know, right?
Right.
I know, but yeah. The door. Anyway, but yeah, I do think it's important to respect everybody's position in the production, and I also think it gets a little too diva when you're like, well, what are you thinking? What are you gonna do with this shot? Or like, where's the light? Because in my mind, I'm like, first off, you don't know what shot they're going for, like what total look they're looking for. Hang on one second. Let me just grab them real quick. Come here. Stop it.
Live TV, folks. Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zalakis. Our guest Melody Parra is here with us. We're having a great time talking about being a diva on set, not being a diva on set.
No, I've never been a diva. No, I think you don't know what the final vision is. You don't know how they're thinking about cutting it. You don't know what they're gonna do in post. So it's kind of like, I think it's overstepping. I think if you have a close relationship with the director or with the cinematographer and they ask you like, hey, you think this looks funky or whatever, then you can chime in a little, but with respect, because you know that everybody on there knows what they're doing. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you got to be careful with those things.
What do you think about when you do a take and you don't love it, but they go, all right, good, we got it. And you're like, wait, I want to do it again. And they're like, no, we got to move on. Like what?
I think honestly, in my experience, usually when I've done takes, if we repeat a take, it's for the sake of having the option of variety. So I don't know. I feel like I take prep work very seriously. So I don't really have moments where I'm kind of like, I hated it. I'm just more like, kind of like, okay, like I feel like I gave it, if I do feel in a moment like, hey, I felt funny in one moment or whatever, can I redo it? I'll say it. I'll be like, if we have time, can I do one more? But usually I'm pretty, because, it's not just me, unless it's like a whole monologue on my face or something, usually it's dialogue back and forth. So you don't know what they're going to cut. You don't know what they're going to use. So usually I'm just confident in like, they're going to structure it the way they want to structure it. Because sometimes the way the script is written and the final cut, it looks so different. So it's like, you know what I mean? Because when you're in the editing room, you're kind of like, okay, like, wait, this flows better if I change this around, or if instead I cut to here. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you figure out the flow and you just got to trust that it's going to like work itself out.
Are you working on both sides then? You're working editing, you're working production side?
I have worked editing in the past. Just like on the movie that I made, I ended up editing a good portion of it. I work with different editors, but I did do that. Except for the audio side, because audio's a whole different ballgame. But so yeah, so I think I learned a lot because I hadn't really been on the production side of things until I decided to write and make my own production, and I learned a lot. You know, sometimes like as an actor, you're just like, okay, I'm going to learn my lines, know my place in the story, know my character inside and out, you know, all that. But when you're on the production side, sometimes when you have actors, you know, some actors ask, they need a lot of like, you know, a lot of like, they want to know what's going on every second. They're kind of like, oh, because I've directed, you know, they're like, wait a second, so like, if you do like that, then shouldn't I be in this? And I'm just kind of like, okay, hang on, because like you're trying to do it then, you're trying to do it with lighting, you're trying to do it with the cinematographer, you're trying to handle all these moving parts. So like, it's interesting. It's just a lot of moving parts. So being on the production side, you realize like, of course, you're just a part of the story that you're telling, but you don't know what they're going for sometimes as far as like the whole vision. So you just,
Right.
if you give them what you prepped and they're like, we're good, you got to just be like, that's what they wanted. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah. And if you give and then if they're like, wait, can we do it one more time? But can you do it a little angrier, or a little sadder? Or can you do it, you know, as if you just realize your whole friend was like, your whole friendship relationship was a lie. You know what I mean? Like, you just put different colors on it, but you got to trust that they know what they want, you know? And then
Right.
if you're on the production side, you got to trust that you know what you want and you got it. Because I have had actors tell me like, I don't think I did that great, or was that okay, you know, like whatever. And I'm like, no, you're fine. Like it looked good, because sometimes you don't know how it looks on camera, or you don't know exactly how it's being shot. So
Right.
it's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Half the time I give a great performance and I go, oh man, I loved it. And they go, oh, the camera wasn't on your face. It was just your body. And you're like, I mean, on purpose. They were doing a
Yeah.
different scene.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're shooting.
That is a good point. That is a good question to ask as an actor. That I feel is totally valid. Like, if before you start, you're like, what's the shot? And if they're like, it's a medium shot, then you know you're dealing with this. If they're like,
Right.
it's a close up, then you know you're just here. Or if they're like, it's a wide, you're like, oh, okay, then it's gonna be everybody's in that scene. So there I think that is a smart question. Just real simple. Is it a wide? Is it, yeah, okay, cool. Because then you know how to adjust yourself.
But you know, I do it the same whether my face is in the shot or not. I do, you know, the same performance. I'm still trying to do the best performance.
Which is great. I think sometimes they like the production side of things brings that up, because they're like, save it for your close up, or save it for
Right.
like, especially if it's like a very emotional scene, because they're like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
you know, who knows if you can work up to it. But I feel like as an actor, you should be able to work up to it as many times as you need to, you know? So
Right. No, I feel you. But let's talk about one of the scenes I watched you do. And I got a few more questions I want to go back to. But one of the scenes I watched you nail was I think it's called Nina. And there's a scene where you do like a single tear. And I was like, man, that is really cinematic. Like, so tell us about that scene.
So that's my movie. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Nena, okay.
Story. Yes, it's called Nena, The Untold Story. It's on Amazon Prime for whoever wants to check it out. And we also shot it in Spanish. So there's also a Spanish version called Nena, Una Historia Real. That was cinematic. I'll give you a little bit of a backstory to that. So I directed and acted in that, and I wrote it. It's based on a true story that happened in Mexico, in the part where my family's from. I was exhausted when we shot that scene. It was 3 a.m. in a little room, you know, and super cold, because it was out in the desert, super cold. And, you know, so you have all these external things, and then like your mind is switching between like directing and acting in that moment. So you're just like, you know, you have to really, if you do something like that, you have to really trust your cinematographer. And I got a really great one. His name is Vince Klein, and he was just like such a trooper. Like, you know, just was happy to be there. Like, didn't care how long it took, as long as we got the shot. Just a really hardworking guy. You know, and he has his own production company now and all that. And I think he changed the names, or I'm starting to remember what it is. But Vince Klein, yeah, he's really great. So I would definitely work with him. So I remember just telling him like, hey, I want it set up like this, and I would kind of have him set up the camera and go and look at it and be like, okay, yeah, that looks good. And then I have to just like go back into like, you know, actor mode and be like, that's a really intense scene where it's like I was confessing a crime. You know, my character Nena was confessing a crime and why she had done it. And all throughout the movie, you think she's just kind of like this withdrawn, cold person. But then when you get to her childhood, you understand what led up to her being that way. And not that she's withdrawn, she's just been so like traumatized and abused that, you know, she becomes like, she ends up killing her aggressor and then like someone else who she's also like in love with but betrays her. So it's like, you know, it's all that. And I remember I was like shivering, like I was not supposed to be shivering, but I was so cold. It was like 30 something degrees or 40 degrees in the desert, and it's an outdoor little shed that we use.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know, wanting to like shiver, and I just had my hands clamped like on my thighs, you know, and I was just trying to keep still. And I was like, just focus on the other actor, just focus on the other actor. I had a really great cast too. The sheriff, the guy playing the sheriff, his name is Rick Oliveira. I remember I was like, you don't have, because he was wrapped on his scenes, you know, on his coverage, and I was like, you don't have to. It was late, it's 3 a.m, you know. We have been up since like 4. Well, I have been up since like 4, prepping everything for other stuff. It's like you don't sleep when you're on both sides of those things. Anyway, so I was like, you don't have to stay if you know, because you have to drive home, like, and he was far off, and he's like, no, I'll stay. He's like, I'm gonna stay so you can have like
Your eye lines,
connection
right.
to work off of, you know. And I really appreciated that because it makes it that much more real.
It's so good when the other actor will go the length for you. Yeah, so important, right? And like I said, I've been on scenes where the other actor is like, we're done here. And I'm like, dude.
I think when people have that mentality, they might be in the wrong line of work, because it is an effort. It's a team effort. You're all there to make the best production possible, you know?
Right. And when you talk about being cold, you talk about being tired, you talk about being hungry. I mean, that's why I say this is the most insane job in the world. Like, I'm a grown man, right? Like, I'm not supposed to be freezing in the desert at middle of the night, but I am, right? Like,
yeah.
So,
I mean, you're still human, you know? That's why it's called acting, because you're pushing all those elements like out of your mind, and you just focus on the connection you have right here. You know what I mean? So it's yeah, but thank you for that. Yeah, I really like that shot too, and it was.
I have a few more questions, and I do want to talk about, we're going to come back to Nena. I want to come back to that, but I wanted to ask you before we get too far away from Shakespeare and literature and all those things. What do you think of being a literature study and seeing all these things? What do you think of when someone says, oh, the book is better than the movie?
I think
like my neighbor. Let me give you, my neighbor will not see Jurassic World or Jurassic Park or any of those other ones because he read the book and the movie didn't hold up. Like,
I think that's a very common sentiment, because I think that there's truth in it. You know, when you read a book, there's so much detail. You get to create your own world. You see it. Everybody's going to see it differently. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to see it differently. So how can a film measure up to like this world that you created in your head? It's like you have the details sorted out, you know? Yes, it can be better as far as, especially for visual people, you know, like it can be better as far as like, now you have a face to a name. Now, you know what I'm saying? Now you have the settings that you were imagining. But if you imagine things differently, I think that's where people get wonky. They're kind of like, wait, I didn't see it that way, or I thought. And then, you know, when sometimes you cast, when the cast is selected, they don't always honor the descriptions in the book. So I think that throws people off too sometimes. You know, like if somebody's supposed to look a certain way based on the description, and then the actor ends up looking totally different, or because, or you know, or whatever, it's kind of like, they're like, wait, what? Like it messes with people's interpretation of what they saw in their mind.
Right, and specifically in the comic books, right? They have a visual, they have an image, and then they change it in Hollywood, and people lose their minds on it. Yeah. Like
I think so. Yeah, especially, it's funny you said that. I was just thinking about that. Like all the comic book, you know, like the films like Marvel and DC, all those universes, like people are such diehard fans, and I think there it's probably too, because they do have a visual element there. Like, you know, they are graphic novels, you know what I'm saying? Like they are. So you're like, wait, what are you doing if you see it different, you know? So
how much responsibility does an actor have to portray the character either true to themselves or true to the art? How much of that falls on the actor?
That's a great question. I think I have mixed feelings on that. Like sometimes when it comes to casting and people are like, why was this person selected? You know, it doesn't honor, they look a little different, or it's not true to like the character's background or whatever. I'm like, well, we are acting. So if they did the best job bringing the essence of that character to life, I think as far as acting goes and artistry goes, they did their job. You know, like that's their responsibility to make it the best, most believable version. I think as an actor, as an artist in general, singer, dancer, painter, anything. The more connected you are to your art, the more people will be connected to what you're putting out there. So it's like if somebody looks a little different, but like the character has silver hair and the person, and gray eyes, and yeah, you can put a wig, but maybe the contrast are too intense, and the character and the actor's eyes are blue or brown, whatever. It's like if they are performing on a level that matches that energy that you picked up on from the character in a book, like why not? You know what I mean? Or like what is it, like Al Pacino in Scarface. He got a lot of backlash at the beginning because he's not the same background as the real life, so it's kind of like, wait, but then he brought it to life so crazy that he like immortalized that role. So like, and his accent was on point. So it's like your job is to bring a character to life. If you can do that, then you've honored, I think, your artistry and your, why should you choose someone who maybe has this, like, literally matches the character in real life, but maybe cannot capture the same energy on film? Like, do you know what I'm saying? There's like a lot of layers to that, I think. So you got to just make the best artistic choice, I feel, when it comes to that.
Right. I feel you. Let's go back to Nena, because I want to make sure we have enough time for everything. Let's go back to that. So you're talking about, again, artistic choices. You shot that in both English and in Spanish?
Yeah, we did.
You did 2 takes, like when they filmed Dracula, the original Dracula. They did the original film with Bela Lugosi, and then they did a second Spanish version with another guy. All the same sets, all the same everything, but you did it twice?
We did. We just had the setup, and we would do, the takes in English and then in Spanish.
And you show them both on the, like, where do they get distributed? They get distributed in the same place? They get distributed, one goes to different market?
Yeah, that's kind of up to, like, the distribution deal. So they're both on Prime right now, and I submitted them to film festivals, and for the Spanish one it was more like international Spanish speaking festivals, and then for the English I did some international and some only English speaking, so it just depended on that. But we did get into the semifinals of Rhodes International Flicker Fest, so that was pretty cool. That's one of the big ones. And then we ended up distributing it on Prime, so they're both on Prime. Yeah.
And you act in Spanish and in English? You audition for both?
I do, yeah.
And how often are you called on to do both in the same scene?
Oh, that's a good question. For commercials, a lot, especially lately. Like for commercials, sometimes they'll have, like if it's a Subaru or Toyota, or if it's a McDonald's, that kind of thing, like they'll have a script in English and a script in Spanish. So one for English markets and Spanish markets, and they will have me do both scripts.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that's how that worked. Wow. I saw the one you did for AM/PM, man. That Rockstar one. That's unbelievably cool. Like,
that was a fun one. That was the first commercial, like, national that I booked. That was a fun one.
Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. What is that creature? He's like made of snacks?
I know. His name is Tungus.
Oh yeah, Tungus.
Like, Tungus, yeah.
Right,
like,
right.
Too much good stuff. Yeah. So he's made of like that was a whole other thing. The guy, the guy playing him, there's one guy just outfitted in that, and then there's another, the head is like remote controlled by another guy. So yeah, like an operator that like makes the little movements, so to make it look real, like while you're talking to him.
So that thing is physically there.
Yeah.
And was that the first time you'd ever worked with any sort of animatronic or Muppet? Because I never have.
The first time, yeah, that was the first time. And I think the head itself weighed like 40 or 50 pounds. So like the way it was structured was like the guy inside the suit, he had some kind of support system to like lift the head. It was pretty crazy, but it was fun. It was like a lot of fun.
And then, so this, for those who haven't seen it, it's this like snack guy. He's made of all snacks, and he goes, oh, here, you have a rock star or something. And he gives it to you, and you get all excited. And does he come out of the refrigerator?
Yeah, it's like when I grab the rock star, the drink, it's like a lever. So I think that's what they titled the commercial, actually, lever. So I touch it, and it's almost like pulling a lever, and then it just like appears and like makes me over, because like, you're so tired, rock star, and then you're like, oh, like, you're all energized and lovely now that you've had one. It's pretty funny.
And do you drink rock stars in real life?
I've never had a rock star.
I knew it. I freaking knew it. Because people always think they think they're going to run into you at AM/PM, right? And like they ask you, hey, they ask me, are those good products? Are those? I never use that stuff. I just paid to do it.
I exactly. I've never had an energy drink. You know, I just haven't. They don't call me like that. I feel like I try to get a good night's sleep and like have my energy come from me. You know what I mean? But yeah, I never have. And
Did they ask you to drink it when you were on set? I mean, I know you don't drink it in the commercial, but did they go, hey, here's one, or you can have one?
no, I mean, I was allowed. They had catering and stuff, so the
They
store
had a crafty.
itself. Yeah, yeah, and then the store itself, the actual AM/PM location. I don't remember if they had. I don't think they had Rockstar out in catering, and we didn't really like eat anything from there. Ironically, like from the store, but they had
Right.
craft services and they had like actual like lunch catering. But yeah, like you said, you're just selling the product. I knew when I did the first audition, it was really cool. And then when I had the callback, because like when you go in for commercial callbacks, everybody's there in person. The whole team, the writers, the producers, the directors, the ad people. So I kind of had a really good feeling about that project. I feel like I know what moment in the callback booked me that, because they had me do and feel free to change subject. Yeah, I know you have other questions and stuff, but they had me do the hair flip thing, like when you come up. And I remember everybody just cracking up when I did it. So I was like, that's a good sign. When you can make everybody laugh, because and it wasn't even like I was trying to be silly. I just was trying to do my take on like how to, my own take on the comedic timing of it, because it's like, yeah. And
right. And okay, and you do everything. You're a singer, dancer, you do musicals.
I started out in musicals. Yeah.
Right. So you dance too? You do all that stuff?
I do dance, yeah.
And okay, and I wanted to just include that, but we got to move on a tiny bit. So let's talk about Spread, where I met you at the party for that movie. You got that coming up. Tell us about your character in that movie.
My character's name is Amy, and she's kind of like the organizer of the group. She's very positive, and she wants everybody to have a good time, because we're all running out, an Airbnb after lockdown, pandemic, all that. It's like our first kind of like friends trip out together, and where like vacations are allowed again, and you can do all that stuff. She is, she's a strong girl. She's a strong girl, but she's also very like, I feel like very light and feminine, which is a nice, mix. And she has no problem telling it like it is. I feel like she's one of the few people, ironically, after I read the whole script, that doesn't freak out quite as much. Like when everybody's kind of getting killed and you don't know who the killer is, and I don't want to spoil too much, but she's kind of like, okay, we're gonna make it through this. Like her positivity shines even through that, like, which is ironic, because I don't know if I've seen a thriller where like people are so positive, like they're more like on edge and might be tough and stuff, but she's like tough, but also just like, we're gonna be okay, like everything's gonna be okay. So it's kind of a fun twist on that character.
So she's kind of a sensible one on top of.
She is, yeah, she is. She's tough. Like she's a tough girl. The way she fights it, like in some of those scenes, is intense. So
do you do some fighting in the movie?
I do, yeah, I do some fighting in those scenes, so that'll be fun.
And do you? What is your take on doing your own stunts as an actor?
I like it. I feel like, I've done it before. I feel like if there's ever a stunt that you feel you can really pull off, or you have to learn, it's like, that's one of the really cool things about this job. You're always learning stuff, and you're always getting to like, put your own twist on things. I did like a martial arts routine one time for a film that I did. That was really fun. And I had never done martial arts before, and we had a choreographer on set. It was me and this other girl that we had a fight scene coming up, and that was really fun. I liked it. I had kind of like a bruised shoulder, because I had to keep on doing like this tuck and roll type. I don't remember what the move is called, but like on the mat. And I remember just like from the practice, I had like a gigantic bruise from just like landing. But I was like, it's part of the thing, I like it.
But they brought somebody in to train you for it.
Oh yeah, they brought in a martial arts choreographer. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So that's pretty cool. So what else do you have coming up? Like besides Spread, which is obviously hot, the Indiegogo's running right now. So anybody who wants to get in on that, donate to Spread to get this movie funded.
Spreadthemovie.com. It has all of our press releases on there, all the interviews, the podcasts that we've done. So spreadthemovie.com, and then you can see the link to the Indiegogo. There's a lot of cool, stuff on there as far as ordering the DVD, T-shirts, caps. It's like there's really cool stuff on there. So check it out.
What else do you have coming up?
I have another film I'm shooting in Colorado. I'm going to be there next month. That one is called Serve Your Soul, and it's going to be coming out. I believe it's slated to release later this year on Prime and on the Roku channel and Tubi, and that's a really great film too. It's like a feel-good film about the waiting staff at a restaurant, and it's New Year's Eve, and they're all kind of coming up with like they're all kind of struggling in different areas of their life, and they're all like a family, so they lean on each other. It's a very nice motivational, inspirational story. So I have to go wrap that up for a few days in July, and then it should be coming out later on. And apart from that, I have a couple other auditions, and we'll see what else gets booked soon. So it'll be fun.
It's right. It changes by the day. Like I'll go, well, I have nothing this weekend. The next thing I know, I got 5 things.
There you go.
So is Spread the only horror film you've ever done or doing?
No, I've done. This one is probably like, as far as gore goes, like gore and horror.
Yeah,
it's the most intense in that sense. But I have done like horror, kind of crime thriller type stuff, and I have done like a sci-fi horror type. So so I've done different genres there.
And where can the people find you? Well, actually, I still got a few more minutes, so maybe we shouldn't tell them where they can find you just yet. But
Okay.
So one of the things I read about you too was that you got into UCLA. We were talking about, and I'm going a little bit backwards now. I'm filling some extra few minutes, but you got into UCLA. You mentioned that on a merit scholarship.
I did.
Like, that's pretty great. I mean, we're talking about graduations. We're talking about those kind of things, with my kid graduating. When you graduated high school, did you graduate with honors and all those things? Like, you did have all that?
I did. I know. I was hearing you talk a little bit about school and kind of like that stuff. And yeah, I did. I graduated with a I was doing APs, honors, all that kind of stuff. So I walked into UCLA, I think with like 50 credits or something, 50 units, like after the AP tests. I walked in with so I ended up graduating early from UCLA. I graduated like at 20. So I graduated pretty early, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you decided to just be an actor. Like, I don't mean just be an actor, but I mean,
not like
right, and
poetic and lovely, but it just, I was like, actually, I took right after I graduated UCLA, I told you, I was thinking of being a professor, but I was like, I wanted a gap year. I kind of wanted like a year to put what I had learned like in practice. So I went to Puerto Rico and I taught English for a year. So that was fun.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
And do you recommend to actors coming up a backup career?
That's a really great question. I've had different conversations with a lot of people about that. Some people are like, no, you have to like live and die by craft. Otherwise, you're never gonna make it if you have a backup. Okay, And then other people are like, no, like you have to have different things going on. Sometimes people say it in case you don't make it, but I would say you should have whatever your interests are, whatever your passions are, you should pursue those. If you like for me, I also do like investing, and I also do like stocks and stuff, and I love language. So I also have like a TEFL certification. So I think when I was younger, like when I was first starting out in this, I was very much about that mindset. I was like, you have to only do this to give it 100%, because if you don't, then you're not serious about it. You're not going to make it. But then, and it's interesting. The more you do, it's almost like the better your acting flows, because you're just like, okay, like, your mind is on several things. So I think it's all energy. I really do. I think it's just energy. Like if you're in that positive headspace, you're doing things you love, everything kind of flows well. And if you're only acting and you're like stressed about it, it's not good. You should be doing it from a loving place, from a place of passion.
Right. So that's what I've sort of heard, is that if you have a steady income or you have money and you're not dependent on the money from the acting gig, then you're more likely to do a better performance. But I don't know. I mean, that's only my personal experience for me. Yeah. But I don't know, how I've had times where I really could use the money from the gig, and yeah. But whether I need the money or not, I'll blow it just on the fact that I'm so excited about the stupid gig.
Of course, no, and I think that's very important. I true. If you're relaxed, you're not putting so much pressure on yourself. And everybody's different. Some people work well under pressure. Some people don't. I think some people are like, no, you have to be hungry. I mean, like, you've heard crazy stories, I'm sure, like about Sylvester Stallone, who literally, like, to make Rocky, like, even sold his dog, and then he bought him back, and that's the dog you see in Rocky, because he didn't want to work in anything except acting. So, like, I think his girlfriend or wife at the time was supporting him, and they had a fallout because she was like, you're not contributing, you know. So there's different stressors, and in his mind, I mean, look where he's at, you know. He very strongly believed that's what you had to do. But then you also look at people like who are huge right now, like, you know, like Ashton Kutcher, they have their hands in so many, Rihanna, they have so many things going on, you know, perfumes, lotion, sometimes clothing, depending on the whatever. And then I think Ashton Kutcher's all into companies, and I don't really know all that, but like, you know, so it's like, why not start there instead of end up there? Why not be interested in several things and just propel your career forward while you also, like, you know.
Right. Start your tequila brand now, so that
Why
way when
not?
you're famous, you can push it. Right. I just
Well,
saw
why not?
I just saw Bryan Cranston and that other Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, and
Yeah.
they're on tour, like pushing their liquor together. It's like
There you go.
Breaking Bad liquor. And I thought, is that why you become an actor? So eventually you can just sell your liquor at Costco?
I think again, it all goes down to like passion. You know, like that
Right.
roles for them were probably so intense and so intriguing that they were like, oh, we can capitalize on it and have something immortalizing it. Why not? You know, so.
Right. And, you know, at what point do you get to just fly the jets around signing liquor bottles? I mean, maybe that's a good gig.
Yeah.
Melody, tell the people where they can find you. Where your passion is, like you said, it's infectious. Tell the people where they can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram under Parra period Melody with a Y, and I'm also on Facebook. Clearly, my acting page is Melody Parra, Parra, and my IMDb is Melody with a Y, Parra, Parra. And if you go to my IMDb page, you can see all my interviews, my commercials, that kind of stuff, my acting reel. And if you go to spreadthemovie.com, you can see our interviews. You can check one out of me in Spanish, translating for Bobby. That was fun for the director. And then we did also another podcast. So, and a couple other, I think they have a couple of TV interviews too at a news station. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there. Check it out.
Translating for Bobby is really hard, man. He talks a lot.
Bobby was really funny. He I guess one of the cast members, Ray Gonzalez, he got us that interview. And Bobby's on here. How cool!
Yeah, Bobby's watching.
Bobby.
Yeah,
Hey.
shout out to Bobby.
But yeah, he got us that interview, and it was all in Spanish. And Bobby was like, oh, he knows poquito, like a little bit of Spanish, you know. But like, I guess we all realized it was all in Spanish. So then, like, you know, so it was fun. I would just like try to recap the points, and then I would translate their questions kind of back to him. But I like it. I enjoy it. Like I said, I love language. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy speaking English and Spanish. I'm conversational in French, but I'm working on that.
Right. I was going to mention you also speak French. Any final words before we conclude that you would give an up and coming actor?
Yeah, you know what? Just go for it. Don't overthink it, and don't compare yourself. I think that's probably one of the most important things. Just put your spin on whatever you go out for, whatever feels most connected to you, most grounded to you, most authentic to you, in whatever script or performance you're doing, and just keep going. You know, just keep going. Keep your mind bright, healthy. You know, keep yourself good, and good things will come. That's what I would say.
I love it. Melody, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you to Warren Madden, producer out in Florida, for booking you on the show. And folks, you heard it here. Man, a great show today. I'm very excited. Guys, Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zalakis. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.